So let's start with this. So I said Josh Allen reminds me a little of Troy Aikman. Kind of a disaster in year one, but the size and the arm and the confidence that you kind of looked at Troy. I remember this, and you're like, it's going to work, but it's a mess. And then 2 years later, Josh Allen's great, and Troy Aikman was a Pro Bowler. Do you see any similarities with the two? You were there for Troy.
Yeah, I was, and obviously the supporting cast. You look at Stephon Diggs has made a huge difference. And when we were at Dallas, obviously getting Emmett and adding a couple offensive linemen and making some adjustments to give him more support that way, that helped also. So I do see a lot of similar things. They're both big, strong guys. Josh Allen and Troy was a great athlete. I remember seeing him play basketball in high school. But we didn't. Troy never ran as much as Josh Allen does. If I'm defending the Bills right now, yes, am I concerned about the passing game and Diggs? But you also have to account for him using his legs and making a play. The guy's deceiving with his foot speed.
Yeah, very rarely a 6'6" guy can run, but Josh Allen can absolutely run. So you've been on this for months. You said, listen, I could win a bunch of games with Trubisky. Matt Nagy can win a bunch of games with Trubisky, but you got to play what works for Mitch Trubisky. So you're not shocked, I would imagine, what's happened in Chicago in the last month.
Not at all. And I said that when they were having a debate in August, and we talked about it on our show, Colin, who should start, Foles or Trubisky? And I said, I think Trubisky, but you got to do what he can do best to give him a chance to succeed. And I really think, looking back on it now, that Matt Nagy and the whole organization, they had their mind made up. Nick Foles was going to be the guy because he was going to be the guy that could help me be a player coach on the field. When that did not work out, now, and you got to give Nagy credit for this, okay? And people are tough on him here, but he was able to take his ego, and his comment was he stood aside and said, hey, I'm willing to give up the play calling. I'm willing to do whatever I have to for what's best for this organization and this football team. And he has done it. So, there's not many head coaches that would do that, particularly when you're an offensive play caller, and that's why you got hired. And now that they've made this change, Trubisky's, he's over 2-to-1 touchdowns. His quarterback rating's in the high 80s. And there's a lot of excitement. They should sign him back next year. I would franchise him until they can figure out, hey, is he going to be the guy for the next 10 years?
I know. That just sounds ridiculous.
I know.
A month and a half ago, it sounded crazy. But, I said this. It's a little like Baltimore's offense. They don't throw it like the top teams, but there's an athletic quotient here that's hard to defend. They're both very good. And because you can roll the pocket with Trubisky, it's funny. I watched the Rams play this weekend, Dave, and I thought Trubisky would fit McVay's offense.
Oh.
And I think
Goff
would fit Nagy's offense, but that's the reality is that I do think Trubisky can work for coaches, and I think you've been right on that thing.
And they started running the ball too, Colin. All of a sudden, David Montgomery, their running back from Iowa State, everybody's saying, oh, wow, what are we doing different? They're not doing anything different except giving him the football. And he's one of 4 backs in the NFL that are 1,000-yard rushers.
So you're a former Miami Dolphin coach. You won a playoff game there. They bench Tua for the second time. Right thing to do? Is it difficult to do? Where do you land on that?
It's not. I don't think it's difficult. And Brian Flores is a strong candidate for Coach of the Year. I'm going to give him credit because at the end of the day, if things like this don't work out, you're going to get the blame or take the responsibility. But the guy, I don't know if they still give an award. I know they did back in the day when we got started. If there's an award for Assistant Coach of the Year, the guy that gets the vote is Chan Gailey, their offensive coordinator. Chan was my offensive coordinator at the Dolphins when I was there. Then I went and worked for him up in Buffalo. Fitz was our quarterback there, okay? Then Chan went to the Jets. Fitz was his quarterback at the Jets when he was the offensive coordinator. And I'm telling you, the quarterback, Chan, is with these two guys all day long. And this is not something that is happening during the game. In other words, Brian Flores is not walking up to him saying, we're making a change. This to have a scenario like they have right now and like what they did on Sunday, this is something that was talked about prior. And I think it's the right thing to do because if Tua is in and he struggles, everybody's going to say, well, he's a young quarterback. But the guy that they really believe in, I promise you, those players believe in Fitzmagic right now because of his experience more than they believe in Tua. But let's say, hey, let's put Tua in there. If things go great, he throws touchdowns, we win, we win. But if we don't, we got that security blanket, and Fitz has done it, and he can do it for us.
Yeah, and players, I do believe. Tony Gonzalez told me Sunday, goes, if I was a player, I'd want Ryan Fitzpatrick because he's right now, this moment, he's the better quarterback. So I want us to spend some time on this. We both know and like Urban Meyer. We think he's great. But college and pro football is different. So when you and Jimmy win national championships in Miami, and then you go to Dallas, what was the first thing or two that you realized, okay, this is a lot different? What was it?
In fact, I think Buddy Ryan had the quote. He says, they're going to find out that there's no East Carolinas in the NFL. And one of our coaches, Tony Wise, told Jimmy, he's wrong. We're the new East Carolina. We stink. But seriously, the first thing, you learn this real quick. You take an NFL job, the number one most important person, one is your owner. Two is your owner, and three is your owner. So if Urban is thinking about this and he's going to make the transition, you better make sure that you and the owner have a rapport. I think the second thing, and Urban's a big, and I know him, and I know guys that work for him, real close guys, and his thing, no one's done a better job, maybe Saban, you might arguably close, of recruiting talented players, but then developing them. So he's going to be involved in the personnel. And that's what Jimmy did. I mean, if Jimmy wanted to, if he saw a player that didn't meet all the measurements and he wanted to draft him, we drafted him. And nobody questioned that. And I think that Urban's number two, got to get into a situation where the rapport with the general manager, hey, and there's a lot of guys, Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, it's the GM and the head coach work together, but it's a veteran team, Colin. If you're going in where Urban's going in, and the way we did at Dallas, hey, we kept the veteran guys that were going to buy in, but we turned that team around. The first Super Bowl, we had the youngest team in the NFL, and we kind of had a college mentality. And I think so. If Urban is looking, he's got to look to a team that's going to have a young, basically a young foundation, and it starts with the quarterback. And Troy was our guy, and Jimmy and Troy, had the good rapport. And the quarterback's going to be the face of the franchise. The head coach, I mean, you don't want to go in with a veteran guy and try to convince him that this is the way you're going to do it. And then the last thing, okay, and this is important. You got to get assistant coaches and run systems. There's a lot of different ways. When we went to Dallas, and I'll give you a story, we got crushed that first year by the Kansas City Chiefs. And you had a big running back, Christian Okoye. They ran up and down the field. It was one of the worst games we had. And I'm watching the tape the next day, and Jimmy walked down the hall. And I remember this conversation, and it's about mid-season. And I said, hey, Jimmy, you got a second? He came in. It was just the two of us there. And I said, you know what? Look at Kansas City. They're running this under defense. Maybe what we're doing, do you think that our college defense, because that's what we did. I took the playbook right from what we did at Miami, and we installed it with the Cowboys. And I said, look at this. And I said, and then the Giants won the Super Bowl like a year or two before. Parcells and them are running a 3-4. You think our defense, I mean, are we doing the right thing? And he said, let me tell you something. We know our defense better than they do, okay? And we got to get players to fit in here, and we got to keep coaching like we're coaching, and we all know the results we'll get. Well, guess what? Fast forward, now we're winning games. We win Super Bowls. And to this day, they still call that defense that we brought from Miami and put in at Dallas, it got labeled the College 4-3. And that's where it originated. And it was just because of, hey, there's a lot of different ways to do it. So my point is this, that Urban's got to get some assistant coaches, and he's not he's on top of it. He kind of runs it like Jimmy doesn't, like a lot of guys do it. He big picture guy. I'm going to be involved in everything, offense. But, he's not one of those play caller guys, is my point. So he's got to get a couple of assistant coaches if he goes this route. And he believes in the system, and they've got to get players to fit that system. So that's the three things that I think: the owner, personnel decisions, and then get a couple systems that you believe in, and you got to get players to build around that.
Well, that was good. I learned a lot right there. You got a good memory there. So what's it like in Chicago? Like, is it 9 degrees, 15 if I came there for the weekend? What is it?
We're going to get about I'm looking at the city right here. See, there I am. I'll give you a little tour right there. We are expecting about 4 to 6 inches of snow by the time we wake up in the morning. The city, it's cold, but everybody's in a good mood because the Bears are winning.
I don't blame them.
I got my Monsters in the Midway sweatshirt on. I'm ready to light a cigar and walk down the street here.
All right. Love to join you. I will soon enough when it warms up. Good seeing you, Coach.
All right, Colin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.